Alright, welcome to, it's sort of a part 2, but can be viewed on its own. It teaches you how to write a function of your own, a very basic one, and also teaches you the ins and outs of the for loop, things like that. Alright, let's get started. First of all, we're going to be outputting to the screen. So, as always, IOStream, and our namespace. One of these days I'll teach you how to write your own namespace as well, so keep an eye on that. Let's do a function declaration. Normally this would be in a header file, and then the function itself would be in another C++ file, but it's very small. We'll just do it like this. I could teach you one day how to do that as well. Int and our internal integer. Now this here I'm going to end it right there. This, when it's outside of the main and it's defined like this, basically it means I promise I'm going to define what the function is later, right? So let's do it later. It's right here. We do the same function, except we don't end it like we did up here. We do what our function is, so let's take int the value. Oops. This, I'm going to explain why I changed that in a second. Now, this is very important. This is the exact same, but I want you to notice I named this value and I named this int. That's because as long as the name matches, the type matches right here, is an int, this is the exact same function. It's not overloaded, it's not redefined, it's not different. I can put whatever the hell I want up here, and it's a prototype. It's not the actual function. It's just telling it that there will be an integer defined here, and then I can actually define what I'm going to use down here. Alright, keep that in mind. So this here part is probably the only part that doesn't matter. But if I was to change int to a double, for example, it no longer matches, and I've overloaded my increment function. So if I passed a double or an integer in my main, would determine if it called increment with the double or increment with the int, and I can actually do that right now, like just like this. This is called function overloading. It's very important. Now they do the exact same thing, but the problem before was if I had passed a double, it wouldn't have worked because I had wrote it for int, if you remember. Now I can use my function with an int or double value. There's really no difference other than a double is a different variable type. It can hold a bigger number. Other than that, there's no difference, except for C++ won't allow it, because if you declare this as a double, you have to pass along a double. Now I can use an int, I can use a double, doesn't matter. I can keep writing. I can write for short, I can write for unsigned int, and I can overload my function so that it could take any value passed to it. And remember that it's actually just one function. It's function overloading. I'm gonna write another tutorial on more detail with that, but this is pretty cool stuff. For those of you who are confused, well, how would I do this? I don't want to write a separate function for each and every one. Well, you don't. You write the same function twice, 3, 5, 6, 70 times if you need to, with different parameter lists. If I was keeping track of two counters, I could have did int value, and then I could have had a third one that took the second parameter as a double, and then another one that took double, and then a short and double. It's endless what you can do. It's real endless. So let's leave that right there the way it is. Let's get into our for loop. Now, because I don't have a previous defined value, I'm gonna just do it right here. Now, what we want to do here, we all know it's the check. As long as the check is true, we're going to keep iterating. However, performance feature of for, which means we can actually omit that, and it will basically iterate forever until we tell it otherwise. Now the increment function would now be next, but we're going to be incrementing it ourselves using our function. So you can actually write this like this. If you had an integer defined up here, you can write your for loop like this. It's perfectly legal. There's the only reason you would put it in here would be to make it local, make the integer local to the loop. But let's put it up here, and then I'm gonna rerun it the other way, and I'm gonna show you the difference. All right. So now what we need to do is an if statement. If I not equals to 4001, which means we're not done, we're still looping. We want to output value of I, and return, just like that. Else, that means we're done. We'll break out of the loop. This keyword break means to exit whatever loop you're in, no matter what. So as soon as it's going to keep iterating right here. When it hits this, when it hits 4001 and it hits this, it's going to jump to here. And what we're going to put here is a hard return and return to operating system. Simple as that. So let's run this. If you've watched the previous example, it's kind of based on that. Oh, I didn't pass it properly. Hold on, I didn't do the function. That's what happens when you do it all on the fly. So we want to return, we're returning the value back to I, and we're going to use the function to increment I. Ta-da! Just like that. So every time it passes through that, it'll return I, it'll be one higher, it'll pass the same number back, and it'll keep doing that. I went over those functions so hard and I forgot to even use it, didn't I? See? Simple as that. Now if you wanted to, you can define a local I, and it won't use this one up here, it'll use this one. You'll get the same result. Everyone should know about scopes, things like that. Now this is the tricky part right here, what I was about function overloading. If we do a double, this should actually be double as well if we're working with a double. We're now passing along a double and working with a double. Oh, I didn't return double properly. Anyway, I don't want to code through all that. I'm going to write another overloading tutorial. So keep in mind what's going on right here. Alright, this here, not important. You can have these empty, right? If we were to put the check here, this loop would break before it reached 4000, because this one would take precedence. The loop would actually break before it got a chance to hit this high. It would never reach break because it would never hit 4001. If that's clear at all to you. My next tutorial is going to be on function overloading. Keep an eye out for that one. That's going to be a very important one as well. Yeah, just keep an eye on it. Alright, I didn't want to leave that blank on you like that. Maybe you were following along. The problem with the double was, because I was explaining, and just as I stopped I realized, you know what, if I'm explaining functions I should explain it properly, and not just the for loop. Alright, so when I change double down here and double here to pass along the double, and to just keep working with double, see, and it works. All I did was I forgot to tell you to change your function declaration up here to double, because I had left this as int, and that's why it didn't work. If I change down here double to work with doubles, you need to do it up here too. That's all it is. I forgot to do that. I knew what it was, but I I should have realized that if I'm explaining something, I should follow through and explain it right, and I'll never do that again in any of my tutorials. So, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know, and subscribe.